To create more interesting, more realistic, and more immersive 3D experience, we can use textures. So far in this course, we have been using material colors. So we have our meshes and they only had one single color per mesh, which can give often good results. But by applying texture, you can make it more realistic and add more details to your meshes. Thanks to Dry Library, it's very easy to use textures into our React 3 Fiber projects with Use Texture Hook and Use Video Texture. Before diving into the explanation, let's add a texture over that cube. Let's jump to Experience where we have our cube and let's declare a texture variable. We will get it with Use Texture Hook and the path to our texture. So it's located in public. This time it's textures folder. And we have many texture available here. For now, the one we will use is the color texture. It looks like a paving stones. It's textures / paving stones 130 _ 1k _ color.jpg. When we use a color texture, we have to apply it to a material on the map property. So texture. Now our cube has the texture applied to it. The texture is applied on our cube by following the UV that is defined on our geometry. This is something you can adjust with 3D modeling software. But if we control the UV of our mesh using 3D modeling software, we can control the texture programmatically. Let's say that we find the pattern is too big and we want to reduce its size. What we can do is on the texture, use the repeat property and set it to the number we want. By doing this, you can see it is smaller here, but the repeat is not working. It's because we need to define the wrap property. On the texture page from Three.js documentation, you can see that when they repeat the texture, they also set wrap S and wrap T to repeat wrapping. But if it's your first time, you have no idea what it means, so you can search what is wrap S, and you have the definition. This defines how the texture is wrapped horizontally and correspond to U in UV mapping. And for wrap T, it's the same but vertically. They also give this warning here that when you want to repeat a texture, you have it to be a dimension of a power of 2. So 16, 32, 64, 512, 1024 and so on. Let's set our wrap properties by setting wrap S is equal to wrap T because they will be the same value and they will both be repeat wrapping. We need to import 3 to be able to do this. Now you can see the shape is much smaller because we repeated it 3 times. We can also do the opposite by setting it to 0.2. It now appears way much bigger. We can also have control over the rotation of the texture. Rotation is equal to math.pi divided by 6. And you can now see that it is following diagonals this way. Okay, let's remove our control and just get back the texture. The texture that we are using is a PBR textures, which means it's not only coming with the color texture, but also the normal or the roughness that will give more details to our object. On the top left, we have the color texture that we were using so far that affect the color of our face. On the top right, we have the roughness. So before, when we were setting roughness, we applied it to the whole material, making the face uniform with the same roughness value. But by using a texture, it can be way more precise and we can see holes and gaps on the face to add more depth and realism. This is why it is called physically based rendering, because it affects a lot of parameters such as ambient occlusion and normals to create way better reflection on our surfaces. Let's stop with theory and let's apply it on our cube. Let's go back to our experience and let's apply the different texture on our mesh standard material. There are different ways to use texture hook. If we use directly a string, it will give us back that texture. But we can also pass an object. We set map is equal to this. But we also want to get the normal map, the roughness map, and the ambient occlusion map. We name it with the same name than the mesh standard material props. So AO map, roughness map. This way we can name it props and apply it by destructuring it over the material. Otherwise, we would have to set them one by one like this way. Now, if we look at our cube, there's no comparison. It was looking flat and now it looks very nice with details here on how the light affects the different holes. And we can really feel the depth of that material, of that surface. There are many places available online where you can find the free PBR textures. I give you some links in the text content from this lesson. But keep in mind that it can be very heavy textures. For example, this one is 10 megabytes. You might need either to compress them to not use many inside your project, or consider using them like in Blender and then bake your scene to have realistic rendering without loading huge textures inside your project. Let's have a look at another type of textures, which is named matcaps. It's a lightweight technique compared to PBR texture to capture the appearance of a material. It is often used in video games to render realistic materials without the need to set up complex lighting setup. Instead of having multiple texture files, we only have one matcap texture. The biggest downside of using this material is the fact that the lighting is faked onto it. But in some cases, it can help a lot and still looks very good. I already prepared a matcap texture into the project. It's this one. Let's replace it with our texture. So it's textures / let's get the name, copy, paste, and we store it into texture. We need another type of material to process correctly the matcap texture. It's mesh matcap material, and the property is matcap. We assign it our texture. Now we have this blue-green cube, and if we rotate, you can see that there is some kind of nice reflection and nice lighting effect. You might think it comes from the light of our scene, but we can disable the environment component, and still it will appear this way. It's because it's faked lighting. We can also use video textures very easily thanks to use video texture. We have a use video texture. We pass like the other ones the path to the texture. Mine is SpongeBob SquarePants.mp4. I copy paste. I go and paste it. Let's name it video texture and reapply it to a mesh basic material. It works the same way that an image texture, so we can apply it to the prop map. Video texture. But I forgot the S on textures here. Now we have our video playing on each face of our cube. I guess in a real project you might want to apply it on a plane or a rounded plane.